Hello everybody, thank you all very much for joining me on this new video. Today we're going to be having a look at how you can set up your own FiveM server using ZAP Hosting. We're specifically going to be having a look at how you can set up your ZAP Hosting server, how you can install scripts and other vehicles to your server, and how you can configure it to your liking. So to start off with, you're going to have to need a ZAP Hosting account, and obviously you're going to need to purchase a server on ZAP Hosting. So if you haven't done any of those yet, you can use the link in the description down below to go over to ZAP Hosting and get an account there, and then you can get your own FiveM server. Pretty cheap. You can see the price on the home page. It might not be up to date for what you see now, and you pay per slot. So once you've bought your GTA 5 FiveM server, you can go over to the web interface. As you can see, I've already purchased mine. We'll be going over to the web interface now. And once that loads up, you'll see that I've got my own GTA 5M Linux server. You can see the IP over there as well, which is all perfectly fine. What we're going to do is we are going to go over to my game servers and the GTA 5 FiveM mod Linux server. So once you click that, you're going to be greeted with the web interface that ZAP Hosting has to offer you. So you can see all your server details over here. Got the location, status IP, number of players, etc. You can see the performance that the server is offering you at the moment. And then on the left here, you've got your dashboard, your messages, and a lot of other things you can use to install and configure your FiveM server to your liking. So when you've only just bought your server will be offline. You can see I just put mine to offline. To get your settings configured to the proper defaults, you want to run your server once. So what you're going to do is you're going to click the start button, and it's going to start your server for you. As you can see, it's starting, and then once this cog finishes and it says started, that means that you're all ready to go. So now I could technically go onto FiveM and connect to this IP address, and I'll be able to connect to my very own FiveM server. So once you've done that, just turn it back off again. This will have initialized all the settings to the proper values, and then you can go over to the information panel over here to configure them over to your liking. So we're currently on the dashboard. The first thing we are going to be looking at is the settings. That's probably going to give you the checking your browser. Just give that a moment to load up. You can see here you can configure the settings. You can configure the game port, the custom slots, and then you can also configure the server name as well as the RCOM password and the database. So most of these should be pretty self-explanatory. If you want to change your server name, you can do so here. You can also leave this blank to manually configure it later. We'll just change it to something else. So we'll just change it to ZAP Hosting Albo 1125 tutorial. I would actually recommend changing the RCOM password as well. So just change this to whatever you like. I'm just going to put Albo at the end just to make that a bit more custom to myself. Let's click the save button there again, and then that's going to have saved that all. You're able to go onto the next bit, which is going to be the configs. So the configs allows you to change all the various configs you have in your server, which in most cases is just going to be the server.cfg. Now, if you've ever run your own server on a VPS, you'll be quite familiar with this. You can quite simply hit the open file button, and then you're going to be able to see what exactly the deal is with your server over here. So as you can see at the top, you've got a number of settings that are automatically configured by ZAP Hosting, such as the ports, the IP, and also the database connection details. So you're not going to want to touch these. These are all set by the ZAP Hosting properly. And then over here, you can see you've got all the resources that you're going to pretty much want to have by default. You can take some of these out. For example, if you don't want the player names, you can decide to take that out. I'm just going to leave it in. So if you have any custom resources that you're going to install, you're going to put them below this line. So we're going to do some of that a little bit later. But then, for example, if you wanted to add one, you can just type start, whatever the name of the resource is, for example, jailer. And then that'll automatically load the jailer when you start the server. So I'm just going to take this out here for now, because obviously we haven't actually installed the jailer yet. Script hook allowed, so depending on whether you want script hook or not, you can set this to 1 or 0. If you set it to 1, people will be allowed to run scripts using script hook. And then you've got a whole lot of other things you can configure. As you see, the server name has not yet been updated because I haven't actually run the server since I changed it. That will automatically update when I do run the server. You've got disable announcing, which we are going to do because I don't really want this to show up on the server list yet. So now we can only direct connect to it. People won't actually see it in the server list. And the rest of this looks fine. Now, something you might be used to from running your own server on a VPS is that you need a server key or a license key. You don't actually need to put one in here because this is a certified partner. ZAP Hosting is a certified partner with FiveM as of at the moment. So you don't actually have to worry about doing a license key thing here. And then once you've configured all the settings to your liking, you're going to click save. And that's going to save that up for you. Now, as you saw earlier, the server name had not yet been updated since we changed it in the settings area. So what we're going to do is we're just going to hit the start button here. And then that should update the relevant settings. We're just going to wait for that to start up. And then we're going to open the server.cfg once again. So we're going to open the server.cfg file once again now that the server has started up. And when we scroll down, you'll be able to see that the server hosting name has indeed changed to what we set it to earlier. And so is the icon password. So do bear in mind that if you make any changes in the settings, you're going to have to start your server for those changes to actually take effect in the server.cfg. Now, with all that out of the way, you can pretty much go and connect to your server. You won't have any resources yet other than the default ones, but it is playable. You can connect to it, and if you like to, you can just keep it like this and run on a default server. But most people, probably including yourself, are going to want to install custom resources such as scripts, vehicles, PEDs, stuff like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to go over into the resources. Just going to check my browser again. Wait for that to complete. And as you can see, the ZAP Hosting plugin installer actually allows you to install a number of these plugins with one click. So you can see you've got MySQL Async, which is quite a important plugin depending on what other resource you want to run. You've got Essential Mode, you've got the Dunko's VRP pack, you've got quite a lot of things, mostly frameworks that you can install. So if you want to put these in your game, on your server rather, you can click the install button up next to them and then it'll put them in. So as an example, we're just going to install the MySQL Async and we're going to have a look what that looks like. Going to wait for that to install, and as you can see, it'll come up over here and say that the plugin has been installed. You've got the progress bar over here to see how far it is with installing. It says it's going to be finished, so that's all good. And then once that disappears, we're going to be going over to the server.cfg once again. As you can see now, it'll say this version has been installed, so just be a bit patient with that before you start spamming the button, because otherwise it might mess up. Going to go back to configs, and then it should hopefully show that the MySQL Async has been added to the startup resources. So open the server.cfg here once again. And as you can see, inserted through the ZAP resource system, start MySQL Async. That has been inserted there, so MySQL Async will automatically start when you run your server. You don't have to worry about adding them to your server.cfg manually anymore. And in addition to that, you've obviously got the MySQL connection string at the top that we saw earlier. This connects to your very own database on ZAP Hosting, so you can do with this what you like, you can administrate it as you like, and it'll connect to that without any issues at all. Now the next thing we're going to be looking at is how to install resources that aren't included in this easy installer provided by ZAP Hosting. So in an example, we're going to be using the jailer that I actually wrote myself. It is available on the FiveM forum for download. So what we're going to do is we're going to be going over into the tools, and you're going to have to go over to your FTP browser. Now, I'm also just really quickly going to turn off my server because I don't really want that to be running while I'm making changes to it, just in case. As you can see, we're now on the FTP browser page. You've got your FTP details over here. You're going to have to remember those for later. I'm going to blank them out because you don't need to see them. You'll have your own. And what you're going to do is you're going to scroll down. And then when you scroll down, you've obviously got the message here, stop your server before you edit stuff. So that's important. You're going to need an FTP client. So I recommend just downloading the top one, FileZilla. you're going to have to click on the download button, and then you'll be redirected to the FileZilla website. You're going to have to download that to be able to access the files on your server. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click download FileZilla client, and that's going to download that for me. 64-bit Windows, and then I'm just going to hit the normal download. So save that wherever you like. As you see, you've got it in the bottom left on my Chrome here. I'm just going to hit that, and that's going to install for me. And as you can see now, FileZilla client has been set up. Once you've run through the installation, I'm just going to hit the start FileZilla now. So once you've opened FileZilla, you're going to see at the top that you've got host, username, password, port. I'm just going to enter those. You're going to be able, again, to find those on the FiveM ZAP Hosting FTP page. So scroll up to your details and fill them in. So the host is going to be the same as the IP you see in your details up over there. Then obviously your username and password is going to be pretty self-explanatory, as is the port. So fill them into here and then hit the quick connect button. Now once you click the quick connect button, you're going to be asked if you want to remember the password. You can probably do this just to make it a bit easier to connect with yourself. Obviously, if you don't want to, you don't have to, so you can click that option as well. Then you're just going to hit OK. And as you can see here, we've got on the right hand side the contents of our ZAP hosting server. So if we go into here, you'll be able to see that we've got a number of folders and also files over here. We're going to go into GTA 5 FiveM, don't touch the other ones. And then as you can see here, we've got the FiveM server. So we're going to go over into server data. And this is really where you're only going to be doing stuff. So go over into whatever the folder name is there, GTA 5 FiveM, and then server data. And this, if you've ever run your server on a VPS, is what you'll probably recognize as being the FiveM server that you want to configure. So you've got the server.cfg here that we were editing before. You've got an icon that you can change to whatever you like, and then you've obviously got your resources folder, which is what we are going to want to configure to our liking. So if we go into here, you'll see that we've already got the default resources as well as the MySQL async resource that we installed using the ZAP hosting installer earlier. So this is good. And then on the left hand side, I've currently got my PC files open. I'm currently in my K drive and then FiveM ZAP folder, which is where I'm just going to be downloading the resources I'm going to install for the purpose of this tutorial. Obviously, to install the resources, we need to download them from somewhere first. So you can either make them yourself or you can download them from the FiveM forum. So I'm just going to navigate over to the FiveM forum, and then I'm going to go over to my JAILA resource, and we're going to install it into here. Now, as you can see, we're on the download page of the JAILA that I created. You've got commands you can type in chat and the changelog. We're just going to hit the download button, and I'm going to save it over in my FiveM ZAP folder in my K drive. I do recommend having some kind of separate folder where you keep your FiveM stuff, just to make it a bit more organized for yourself. Going to hit that, and then the zip is going to be over there. And I think we're going to have to hit the refresh button. It'll show the FiveM zip. It'll show the JAILA.zip rather over on my PC in my K FiveM ZAP folder. Obviously, as we can see, the JAILA is still a zip file. So what we're going to want to do is extract that zip file. You can do this using your favorite extraction software. You can use either WinRAR, 7-zip, or whatever you prefer. I'm going to use the 7-zip, and I'm going to extract it over to the JAILA folder. As you can see, that's going to create the JAILA folder over here. And then we are going to be having all the files that you need over in that folder. So we're going to go back to our FileZilla. And we're just going to have to hit the refresh button again. And as you can see now, we've got the JAILA folder over on the left here in our FiveM ZAP folder. The files are in there. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that you're in your resources folder on the server, as we are at the moment. And then you're going to want to right click this, hit upload. And then as you can see, it will say all files have successfully been transferred. As you can see now, we also have a JAILA folder over on the right here. You can open that. And as you can see, you've got all the necessary files up over there. Now going back to our ZAP hosting web interface, remember that we have installed this JAILA using the FileZilla, so it won't have automatically been added to the server.cfg. Now you've got two options here. You can either edit the server.cfg using FileZilla, which is fine. You can do that. You can right click and hit the edit button, and then you can edit it using your favorite text editor. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the FiveM ZAP hosting web interface just to show you how to do it over in there. So we're done over in the FileZilla area. So what we can do is we can simply hit the disconnect button. And then as you can see, it's been disconnected from the server. We can now safely close the FileZilla program. We can just hit yes there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go back into our configs area. And then it's going to have a look for the configs over in here. Going to wait for that to load up. As you can see, we've got the server.cfg. So we'll hit the open file button up there. And then what we're going to do is we are going to simply put our custom resources below this line. So we'll go over there, hit enter. We'll say start jailer. Now make sure that the name of whatever you're starting is exactly matching with the folder name. So if it's capitalized at the beginning, as the jailer is, then make sure to start this with a capital letter. Make sure you match it exactly. Once you've done that, you can quite simply hit the save button there once again. And then as you can see, it's going to be taking you back to the web interface area. The server, we ensured that we had offline before we edited the files with FTP. So now that that is done, we can quite simply hit the start button, and then it's going to start. What we are going to be doing now is we are going to be connecting to the server. We'll give the jail script a try, and then we'll see if that is all working or not and what the server looks like right now. So what you're going to do is we're going to be copy pasting the IP address, because we chose to hide it from the server list for the moment. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go over into our FiveM and start our FiveM. So once you've loaded your FiveM, you're going to go over into the direct connect area, and you're going to be copy pasting the IP address we copied earlier. You can see zaphosting.com Albo 1125 tutorial, which is exactly what we want. So we're going to hit the connect button, and then that's going to download all this content. And as you can see, we've got the default loading screen in over here, so we're just going to wait for this to load up. And then we're going to be connecting to the server. Obviously, if you do want a different loading screen, like you've probably seen on some other servers, this is also a custom resource, so you can install the custom loading screen in exactly the same way as we've just installed the jailer. Simply put it on your own PC in the folder that you've chosen to use for FiveM ZAP hosting, and then use FileZilla to upload it over to the server, and then it'll be used by FiveM. Now they're in the server. As you can see, we're walking around. We've got our scoreboard over here. Obviously, we're in the server alone, so it's only going to show us at the moment. And then what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can use our jail script. So we're going to type /jail me. And as you can see, that is putting us into jail, as the jailer resource allows us to do. And as you can see, we're also going to be in jail for the default of 180 seconds. So what we'll do is we'll unjail ourselves using the default password, which is PSWD. You can change that in this jailer resource if you want to. And our player ID is going to be 1. As you can see, that's going to be unjailing us and putting us outside of the prison. So as you can see, the server seems to be working absolutely fine. Every resource that we had installed appears to be working correctly. And with that, it pretty much covers everything you need to know about using the ZAP hosting web interface. Now we have pretty much covered everything that we need to, except the databases. Obviously, if you want to use a database, for example, because you need to use it for a resource, you probably know what you're doing with it already. So I'm not going to go into how you can use MySQL or SQL, that kind of thing. All I'm going to do is show you how you can actually access your database via ZAP hosting. If you want to learn how to manage a database and how to set it up properly to match the resource you are using, then you're going to have to look for a tutorial elsewhere. There are plenty available on the internet to do that, so that is rather beyond the scope of this video. But we are going to have a look at the databases section over here. So you'll be greeted with your database. You've got your server database user and password that you can use to connect to your database using your favorite software. And it is included with every server for free, which is very good. You can also create another one if you want to. So you can either connect to it again using your own software, or you can click the manage button over next to the server, and then you'll be taken to a PHP MyAdmin interface that you can use to manage your database. Obviously, you've got your all your typical PHP MyAdmin things over at the top, and this is pretty much self-explanatory. So if you want to know how to use it from here, you're going to have to look up a separate tutorial on how you can use SQL with PHP MyAdmin. But this is how you access it from the ZAP hosting web interface. You can also use this to create a backup, and you've got all your backups and your usage of your storage space down on this page as well. One of 32 players online. Obviously, I'm still connected to it myself, as you can see over here in the bottom left. And everything appears to be working very well. Got the CPU usage, RAM usage, and slot usage over here. Everything seems to be running very smoothly. Now, the only thing you really want to know about before we end up the video is if you go over back to the web interface button, you'll be able to see your FiveM server. If you go over to the live console, you're going to be able to see all the things that are going on the server. You can also type in commands. If I want to restart the jailer script, I can simply type restart jailer, hit the send command, and as you can see, that is going to automatically restart that, as you can see up over here. So it's going to restart the jailer, stop resource, and then the jailer. So over here you can type in any icon command that you want to use and that you're probably used to from running your own VPS server using the IceCon interface. So over here you don't actually have to use IceCon, you can quite simply use their own built-in console, which is actually a very useful feature. I do recommend using that if you're going to be uploading and editing a lot of resources, in other words, developing. Now that is going to conclude our ZAP hosting tutorial. Vehicles can be installed in the same way as we installed the jailer resource. Obviously vehicles and PEDs and all that are really only just resources. You install them in an assets folder and then in a stream folder. I will link a tutorial to that in case you don't know how to do that, so make sure to check that out in the description below. And with that, I hope you've all enjoyed this video. Make sure that if you're going to be creating an account with ZAP Hosting and getting a server there, to use the link down below in the description. That would be very much appreciated. Obviously that is an affiliate link for myself. So if you want to use that, that would be much appreciated. And with all that out of the way, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it helped you out. If it did, make sure to hit the thumbs up like button. If you'd like to stay up to date with future content and tutorials, as well as other videos, you can click the subscribe button down below as well to stay up to date with the channel. If you have any questions, please do feel free to ask them in the comments below. And if you have any specific questions for ZAP Hosting, they have a very good support service, which you can contact using the various support methods up over there. And with that being said, guys, thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video.